Hello and welcome back to another YouTube video. Today I'm going to be updating all my Clash tier lists, which I did in 13.5 to 13.6. So there's a couple of changes which I mainly want to focus on. These are around things like Nash's Teeth and just individual champion changes. So to begin with, top lane, there's not a huge amount which went on here. For the most part, it's only going to be Kale who's going to move up. I'm just going to use my pen because these are screenshots of videos. So Kale, I'm actually going to say is probably either low A or B tier. The Nash's change obviously helping her a lot. But past that, not a huge amount of other champs in the top lane benefited enough to move them up another tier. Of course, things like Teemo and Gwen are really strong users of the item. But past that, not really a huge amount of others. Like things like Azir top can work, but Azir being in a fairly weak spot, I would not recommend it at the moment. Other things include Mordekaiser. Mordekaiser is a possible really good Nash's user. I haven't moved him up at the moment because it's very limited, but there is a chance something like Frostfire or Demonics or Rhyolize into Nash's or just Nash's Rush altogether are just really strong options on Mordekaiser. So keep that in mind if you're playing him or playing against him. This champ can output a lot of damage if he goes for Nash's build. He's a lot more of an assassin and a lot more of a I'm going to grab you and then remove you from the fight and just kind of 1v1 you in Shadowrun, whereas before you could kind of stall him out with certain things like Zhonya's or just dashes and stuff, but with dashes, of course, his dueling potential goes up massively, makes him quite a big threat, so don't sleep on it, could be really strong. The other champ I want to talk about is Kled. I actually just want to move Kled up into the S tier. I think Kled is a really good flex pick at the moment. He's just really powerful at what he does of providing a lot of raw DPS, the Stride Breaker cripple being really valuable on him, the Ravenous Rush being really strong as a kind of like rush, well, as the rush option on him. You can of course rush Stride Breaker. I'm going to recommend Ravenous. You can also go Eclipse second. Stride Breaker, of course, having the cripple though makes it really good. Flex pick towards mid lane just gives him a lot of value, so don't sleep on Kled. Of course, yeah, there are other good S tier champs. I'm not going to move any into the Z tier. I think the closest one would be Malphite. I think Malphite's really powerful. Like, he does a lot of damage. He has really good trade patterns. He has really good W uptime. His overall team fight's amazing. Good laning. He just falls vulnerable to certain things such as like good magic damage, tank shredders, and like Silas. And Silas is quite popular. So Malphite can come in as a late pick and be really strong, or you can pick him early, but you do run the risk of picking him into champs where he might not be great. Moving on, I want to talk about the jungle. So not a lot of changes here. The main ones are just going to be Mundo. Mundo got some jungle buffs. They weren't huge, so they didn't do much towards him, but I am going to move him up a tier. He's simple to play. He does a lot of damage. Make sure you're going Heartsteel Rush. You don't really want to be going Radiant. It just isn't. You want to use this as a scaling and just run over the enemy comp like later on. So go like Heartsteel Swifties and just output a lot of DPS. Of course, Tiamat being really good for clearing and then into the Titanic second option, or Sunfires if you do. But yeah, I'm only going to move him up into the B. I don't think he really competes with a lot of the A tier champs. I think Yi's actually really good at the moment. I'm going to leave him in A, but he can be S tier if you're good at him and you know how to position yourself correctly in the fight, and you're playing very gold heavy, so you're just taking all the kills, you're farming a lot, people are giving over gold towards you. It provides a lot of value through that. The other champs I want to move up are Echo. I'm not going to move Echo up, but I just want to highlight the fact that Nash just makes him really strong at the moment. So if your Nash is rushing and you want to pick up that early Medjais, just keep that in mind. Echo is really good. There is room for him to be an S tier pick. Same with Eve though. Eve is also just really strong at the moment. Both these champs are on really big ups. Kayn with his flexibility, Gragas. There's just a lot of really strong A tier champs, so be wary of that. I've just put Wukong and Nunu here because they're safer, more like well known, and provide really strong value in what they do. Like Wukong, you can solo carry games. Just be wary that your damage isn't the highest until you have Divine Syndra. That's where you really come online and can start dueling most people. And the other one is Pantheon. Pantheon's really kind of rising up as a jungler at the moment. I'm gonna put him in the C tier. I think he can be close to B tier pick though. Really strong dueling potential, really good lockdown, good clear speed, good itemization, stuff like this. Just makes him really valuable as a pick. So yeah, he does fall off. You just got to be wary of that. But as a champ, he's doing fairly solid in the jungle. And for that kind of playstyle, which Pantheon has, doing pretty well at the moment, is good because he has really strong lockdown, good Jordan potential, and just overall strong value for the kind of jungle meta which we are currently in. Of course, we're leaning more towards farming, which is where Yi comes in a bit more, but Pantheon's still posturing quite well, and on the rise definitely. So yeah, be wary of that. Next, moving on to the mid lane. Couple of changes here. Galio got some buffs this patch, so he's close to A tier. I like high B, low A. He still does have problems within his kit, long cooldowns, pretty telegraphed abilities, but he does do a lot of damage and pretty good survivability if you're opting into like the Aftershock. You can go like the Arcane Comet, more poke heavy build. Night Harvester is almost gonna be your mythic every time. I wouldn't recommend Everfrost. I don't think Everfrost is just a great mythic altogether at the moment. If you do need to set up though for your team, Everfrost does work, but Night Harvester just provides so much damage and raw just DPS potential. I really would not recommend going anything other than Night Harvester. The other champs I want to talk about here are Talon. I mean, Talon can move up into the B tier. The buffs did hardly anything for him. I didn't think they were going to do a huge amount. You get maybe one more W during laning phase. You can do a bit more damage with your passive later on. But overall, the buffs just put him in a better spot. Like a very slightly better spot, but it is enough to put him in the B tier because he was already a fairly high C tier pick. But once again, it's an assassin within a more team-orientated environment. It's going to be harder to find picks. You're not going to thrive off the solo queue environment. So he's still kind of harder to execute. Solo queue, I would say he's around A, high A tier, but for Clash, low B tier. I wouldn't recommend playing this champ. Veigar, unless you're like really good at him or kind of like a one trick. Veigar, I'm actually going to move down to the B tier. He once again got tagged more mid than ADC. He did quite well with the buffs. The range increase was really nice towards him stacking, doing more DPS and just overall combos. But they nerfed him on the armor, the base health, and a bit of the W base damage. And overall, this just puts him towards the B tier. I wouldn't recommend playing him in many compositions. He can still work. You just need to be able to scale up. And then, yeah, you're still going to do a lot of damage. Another champ which fell quite a bit was Asol. Asol got nerfed quite heavily this patch. Losing a bit of stun duration and team fight potential on the ult. Losing a bit of Q damage. Losing the E cooldown bonus when you level up the ability. It used to go from 12 to 10, and now it's just 12 seconds flat. And overall, this has put Asol to almost a 50% win rate. Well, around a 50% win rate. So he is relatively balanced. And in that case, he's probably B tier. B tier is a relatively balanced tier. He's stronger in Clash and in more team-orientated environments because you can play off other people's abilities. If you're playing AD junglers, which you want to be doing with Asol, things like J4 are really valuable. Just keep that in mind. You don't really want to pair him with AP junglers, otherwise it incentivizes mark treads and stuff like that. So, yeah. The other ones I want to talk about are Varus. I'm just going to draw arrows for all of these. Varus is actually going to move up into the B tier. Varus kind of had a resurgence with the Nash's buffs. The CDR was really valuable for him, and that in turn has just done wonders for his playstyle. It gives him more ult uptime. The overall item just feels better to build first into like Riftmaker, and if you're going like Xerxes and stuff like this, you just output a lot of DPS. You become like this pseudo ranged bruiserish mage, which it gives him a unique playstyle, which is cool, but he still does do the one-shots, so just be wary of that if you're playing him. He does have, obviously, vulnerabilities of if he misses his ults. You've got to be able to hit your R's. If you're not hitting R's, don't play this champion. And yeah, Azir didn't really get much out of the Nash's buffs. It's still looking like Shadow Flame is his best in slot second item, so we might see more buffs later on, but for the moment, I'm going to leave him in F tier. Moving on to the ADC role. A couple of changes here. Ashe will move up into the S tier. The buffs for this patch were really nice for her. Combined with nerfs to other certain meta ADCs, puts Ashe in a really good spot. Once again, back up into the S tier. Vayne is going to move up into the A tier. Vayne has options now. Single target's really valuable. Consider it like a low tier AE pick, but you have to itemize correctly according to game. The Essence Reaver PTA build is now an option if you're going Essence Reaver, i.e. Shield Bow, Bloodthirster, and then defensive option. You can do a lot of damage for your PTA procs, Essence procs, stuff like this. yeah, but of course the other option is the on-hit build, and you can go like the Riftmaker Titanic build. I wouldn't recommend it though, because it requires certain like things to play around, and it doesn't spike until far later on. So mainly stick to on-hit and yeah, mainly stick to the on-hit and essence builds. And yeah, you can have a fairly good time on this champion. The boss was just generally nice. There wasn't much she lost in time for gaining quite a significant amount. The main one is, of course, the 2% later on the W. And because it was your first max, it can hurt her. But when you're going the essence build, you tend to Q-max anyway, so keep that in mind. Zoe actually moves down to the A tier. They nerfed all the things which she ran. Things like Lethal, Bloodline, BT... there was one other thing, Navori, all got nerfed this patch, and in turn, she lost a decent amount of win rate, so she can fall down to the A tier. All the rest didn't get hit that much by the nerfs. Twitch still really good, Tristana's still really good, Jinx still really good, and of course, Ashe being the next S tier pick. All of these are really, really strong ADCs. Most of them are blindable. Be careful with like Twitch, blinding Twitch though, because he can have certain vulnerabilities within matchups, but he does answer a lot of champions, so yeah. Moving on to the final tier list, it was the support tier list, and for supports, Galio is probably a B tier pick. He's still not played a decent amount in support, but he does relatively well into the lanes where he can win out. Things like engage, he has really good counter engage, so he can walk into a couple of the meta champions. He also has more value, of course, with the W resist being buffed and the E cooldown going a bit lower. So Galio, B tier pick, does answer a lot of the engaged champs. Just feels vulnerable to certain different champs within the support tier list. And he still reigns supreme here. Rakan is also really, really strong still. I'm surprised these champs didn't get nerfed. Senna, of course, being really valuable with certain pairings. Just keep that all in mind. Yeah, Galio, definitely a B tier pick. Yumi is also going to move down to the B tier. Got hit a decent amount, losing all the resists on her R. So, I mean, combined with mana cost on Q increase and cooldown increase on Q, overall just hurt Yumi a significant amount. So, yeah, we're down to the B tier. Milio, probably going to be in the B tier for the moment. I would advise against playing this champion unless you've put a lot of time into playing him. He's really, really easy to just completely run it on. I've seen a lot of people just go and completely run it down. He's really vulnerable to certain compositions. You just have to be wary of what pairings you're playing him with. He works really well with certain pairings like Ashe, and struggles with other pairings where the passive on the bonus AD doesn't come in as much, as having as much value. So yeah, just be aware of what pairings you're playing in with him with. He seems to be relatively good. He did get massively hotfix nerfed, huge amounts of nerfs, which is why I'm putting him in the B tier. Otherwise, he would probably be S, possibly Z tier. So yeah, just be aware of that. And then last champion is Pantheon. Just gonna move him up to C tier. He's probably better than D tier. So I don't want to leave him here because he does have value within team compositions. You just have to be careful because he does fall off quite hard. You got to really abuse your laning phase. It's where he's most powerful. So, yeah, just be aware of that. But overall, that's my thoughts on the Clash tier list. This is going to be updated for patch 5.6. So if you enjoy the content, like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.